Welcome back to the Trojan Football Coach's Couch. I'm your host, Jody Kenny, and as always, I'm joined by North Hall head football coach David Bishop. And Coach, I gotta admit, this show is the one I've kind of been the most worried about since we got here. It's going to be the first one following a loss. Even worse that the loss had pretty high stakes involved in it. But got a factoid for you. All right, little riddle for you. When was the last time North Hall lost a game that counted in the region or sub-region standings toward playoff seeding to a Hall County team?
2008?
No. That was a region game against Flyer Branch that we lost, but that was a crossover game. Didn't actually count in the standings.
Okay. All right. 2004.
Actually, close.
No, it wouldn't have been in 2004. It'd probably been 2003. Well, no, it would have been 3.
October 7th, 2005.
Okay.
Here against Chestatee in the Hurricane Bowl.
Yes, I remember the Drench Bowl.
So that's kind of amazing when you think about it. It's been that long since we lost to 15 years since we lost.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
So if we put a little positive spin on it, but now my first takeaway from the game Friday, final score 41-24. That doesn't really reflect at all what happened in the game. And in fact, a couple of things I picked up from the stat sheet to illustrate for people that may not have been able to see the game or listen to it. This tells how close it actually was. We were down 14-7 after the first quarter, but we were on the 1 yard line and scored 6 seconds into the second quarter. So effectively, we were tied at the end of the first quarter. We were tied 17-17 at half, tied 24-24 at the end of the third. First downs, North Hall 10, Cherokee Bluff 11. Total yards, North Hall 309, North Hall 304, Bluff 309. And we even won the turnover battle 1-0. I think we offset that by losing the penalty battle. So usually we think of a 17-point win as being a kind of a decisive victory, but it really wasn't in this case, was it, Coach?
It was not. And, you take the last touchdown, we were doing everything we could on the defensive side of the ball. We just said, send them all.
Right.
And see if you can create a fumble, something to give ourselves an opportunity to get the ball back. And he broke loose for a 25-yard run, I think it was. Which, that was the biggest run of the night for him. So.
Right, for anybody on their team, right, by a considerable margin, I think. And you mentioned that, another thing about the game, it was really kind of an awkward game. Neither team found any kind of offensive rhythm at any point.
No.
I think we had one long sustained drive, which we'll talk about in a second. They had maybe 2, but even those were assisted by penalties and things. Some other things I pulled off the stat sheet to illustrate that. 178 of our 304 yards came on 3 plays. 140 of their 309 came on 3 plays. So over half the total offensive output from the two teams came on 6 plays out of a total of 93 total offensive plays from scrimmage. And you throw into that, there was just lots of negative plays on offense, but by both teams. There were a lot of tackles for loss. They have no idea how many. And throw in each team giving up a special teams TD in the first quarter. It just didn't seem like a comfortable game for either coaching staff.
It was definitely interesting
from
my perspective of the game. When you're talking about, I know that we had some issues, Hart County, special teams, we've talked about that before. Right. That was, we were dealing with a whole lot of COVID stuff, a lot of kids in and out and trying to put together a team. And then obviously we were kicking to some really good guys.
Right.
But I can't even remember the last time we've had a punt blocked, let alone blocked for a touchdown. And little things where the Shield has done this hundreds of times. When the ball's snapped, you see penetration. We have a guy that says go, where they all step together and step up, and we didn't call go. We have a center who runs down the field, and another sophomore, Will Jackson, runs down the field on their punt, where Bradford, I have no idea how long that punt was, but that was one of the most impressive high school punts I think I've ever seen. And you get 2 guys run down there, One twist them, the other one strip it, and then score a touchdown. And it was just like, wow, this is got a very weird feel to it. Then we stop them on 1st and 2nd down. They throw a back shoulder fade. We get turned around, and it's a touchdown. And it was just like you said. There's a lot of plays. The hard part about it as a coaching staff and the players is when you know you played well enough to win. Those are the ones you sit there and ask yourself, would you have rather played bad and lost or played good and lost?
Right.
I know that sounds like a crazy question to ask, but that's kind of the feeling you have. And like you said, it did come. I think the biggest things that we saw were penalties, even though we had a little more than they did, it felt a lot bigger. When I saw 5, I went, that's it.
Right.
But they were all at critical junctures of the game.
Right.
And some of them, questionable, but it is what it is.
Right.
Couldn't get off the field on 3rd down on defense. Those were big, big things. And then their goal line stand, two mistakes, simple mistakes. Quarterback does a great job checking out of a play and into another play because we've worked all week on if the defense does this. He checked out to the right play and one guy didn't go the right direction. And had he done that, Bradford walks in the end zone, another play we bounce it, and you cannot bounce the play the way we have it designed. If you do, you're going to get tackled. Right. So just little things, and I can show you plays on game tape where you're like, oh my gosh, these are things we normally do, where had we done them at that moment, we probably score 2 more touchdowns just because they're there. But you can't see them unless you go back and watch my game tape.
Right, and we talked a few weeks ago about how Bradford's really become a student of the game. It's good to see him start to exercise that on the field now, checking out of bad plays. Of course, got to give everyone else to check out the bad plays too. But that comes with time. We'll come back to that in a second. And for what it's worth, I'm pretty sure last time we had punts blocked was in 2014 because it was kind of I seem to remember since my son was the actual punter, I kind of those stung. And that's one blocked the most impressive bad punt snap in the history of football. Won't name names, but if you throw the ball 36 yards between your legs, that's pretty impressive.
Pretty good.
Okay, coming back to this game. We mentioned the one sustained drive we had, and it was we actually looked like we were starting to take control of the game in the second quarter. We kind of taken their best shot, with a couple big plays, held them on a field goal. Finally get a sustained drive going. But you mentioned that the Bears, they made a really strong defensive stand to force a very short field goal right before the half after we'd driven it over 70 yards down the field on them. So we tied the score. We burned out the second quarter so they could get the ball back. And then we eventually took the lead on the third play of the second half. But that goal line stand really gave the Bears some juice going in the halftime locker room that they carried over in the second half.
It is, and I will say this. I don't know that I've ever seen a team have a better goal line defense. This is not something that was just happened Friday night.
Right.
Dawson County had that situation 3 times last week and never got in inside their 5. So they play some really good, solid defense near the goal line, and we knew that going in, and that's why we designed a couple plays. They worked the first time, and they didn't work the second time around. So
isn't Chris Griffin their defensive coordinator?
Yes.
You've kind of been around coaching defense around here for a while, haven't you?
He has. He does a tremendous job.
Right. And we went over the last couple of weeks. There were originally some questions around the Cherokee Bluff team. We knew that under Coach Jones that they would be well coached. Obviously, with a guy like Chris Griffin on your staff, that helps. But the thing that really jumped out at me, and I think that was a very experienced, seasoned team, and with a lot of depth there.
Yeah. Before the game, Coach Jones and I, we're good friends. We got on missions together. I think we talked about it last time. We roomed together.
Right.
So we talked a little bit, and I think he told me they have 17 kids that start somewhere that have been starting for 3 years.
Right.
And that I don't care who you are, that's going to go well for you when you have that much experience and in that many places.
Well, and I think it showed in the last two games. You know, they were trailing Dawson County after every quarter. They're essentially tied with us after every quarter and sealed both games at the end. And you got to see, you know, you've got depth and experience that really goes a long way in the fourth quarter in tight ball games.
For sure. And you know, I know early on a lot of people, including myself, didn't really know what they had. Right. Even Coach Jones and I had talked during the season. He said, "Coach, I really don't know what we have." But you know, they've had two really good football games in the last 2 weeks and pulled out wins, and they are a good football team.
Yeah, they're a very good football, and you know, they're not going to. There's not a lot of flash to them. I mean, they've got, obviously they do have some really good athletes. Shad Dabney and Jaquan Smith stood out, and their quarterback was really good too. Yeah. But I mean, they're not going to overpower you with like Cedar Grove type talent. But there's just no weaknesses on that team, really.
No, and that was the thing that impressed me the most was when you go and you watch game tape and you try to figure out, okay, who do we run at from the offense side of the ball, and you're going, okay, there's one kid, maybe, and then when you're on the other side of the ball, you're going, okay, well, these two do a really good job, and these two do a really good job, and this guy does a really good job of blocking, and they have 4 fullbacks because, you know, you're thinking, okay, well, they're going to go in the eye and we're just going to hammer their fullback. Well, they've got 3 or 4 of them. Right. So they don't get a whole lot of, you know, pounding. They might get 2 or 3 pounds and then they've got another one in there. So the depth, like you said, incredibly deep, and then also just a lot of experience.
Right. So, well, Coach, people aren't tuning in to listen to me talk about the game. So I think it's time for you to take us all to the North Hall Tire and Wheel film room.
There you go. One of the things that we want to discuss today is typically when you have 2 teams that are fairly even matched and playing in a big game, it tends to come down to just a handful of plays in a win or a loss. And I'll be honest with you, Coach, sometimes I don't know which is worse, handling a loss when you've played well and lost, or handling a loss when you haven't played well. When you've played well, you sit up for days wondering what you could have done to make a difference. And so right now, let's talk about a couple of those plays that we saw Friday night. One of the things that we knew going into Cherokee Bluff is they had a large stunt package, and they hurt people every week with their stunts. And our quarterback was in charge of making checks on the field and has done a tremendous job all week long preparing. And in this stunt right here on the goal line, basically they've left the middle open and they're going to blitz 1 linebacker. A lot of times they'll blitz 2, but he has the option in this situation to call a audible, which he was right in doing. The problem with that is there's still 1 linebacker in the box, and one of our players is assigned to that 1 player. Unfortunately, the young man was not able to see the linebacker in the box, and despite the appropriate check, we weren't able to get into the end zone there. That is a big part of what happened on the goal line. There were several plays, and to be honest with you, Cherokee Bluff has done a tremendous job on the goal line against everybody all year. And we had some ideas going in. This was one of them that we have seen. We made the right check, and again, just didn't execute what we needed to execute in that situation. But had we done it, that's going in for halftime, and now that's 4 more points. They're now chasing us on the scoreboard, which puts both teams in a different perspective going forward. Came out at halftime, and I'll be honest with you, sometimes you draw up stuff at halftime and things go well, and sometimes not so well. But we looked at Clark at halftime, and I said, can you sneak through on blast and slip the linebacker and continue to run a seam route? And he said, yeah, it's going to be tough, but I can go ahead and do it. So we put it in there knowing that they're going to come downhill heavy on blast. These guys are going to step forward, and by the time they recognize that it's passed, Clark should be behind them. As long as we can pass protect, it was good. So this was kind of a halftime adjustment that we made. As you can see, him slip the linebacker, the safeties in chase mode, and Bradford throws a nice ball. And it's a big play. Now, like I said, sometimes your adjustments go well, and sometimes they don't always come out, but this one came out of play. One of the things that we knew throughout the game was if we run jet motion, they're going to scream these safeties down hard in the box, and our hopes were to run a blast, a quick play, and hit a little seam, and now the only people that can make the play were going to be your backside safety, possibly the corner. Now, second half, they changed their front, and in this situation here, which could have been a big play, we get the wrong line call, and that hurt us. Now, even without the wrong line call, it almost breaks loose. So what really should have been happening is the line call should have been to allow this individual to come down and block on him who's pinching, take the guard and kick out here. But as you can see, if you watch it, if we do that and we're kicking out here, Clark makes the block and Kevin's running free. Safety's all the way over here, so he's hitting this seam right here, and then a lot of people are in what we call chase mode. Unfortunately, it didn't work out the way we had it planned. Again, just missed call at the line of scrimmage in terms of a blocking assignment, and it makes a big difference in this play. Memphis's job is not really to block that guy. He sees him at the last second and step up, so he tries to help out. But that's a big hole. It's kind of what we expected. It just, like I said, a call here, a play there. As coaches, we make good calls. Sometimes we don't, and that's part of a Friday night game. Also, early in the fourth quarter, there's another big play potential right here. The first thing I want you to do is watch the blocking on the edge and watch what we do to their defensive front. That's pretty impressive when you look at how far we just mashed these guys. But now if we run it a little further, you've got Clark, you've got our 2 guards out front, and you've got one guy. So he's going to be blocked. Clark's going to get in the hole and cut back. And in my opinion, this is going to be an enormous play. We're supposed to check and look for the front side linebacker as we come around, and it looks like he's gone. When you come around the edge, you can see the heads checking. He's kind of in there. And just at the last second, that linebacker pops out. That play is inches, again, from being a touchdown. We block everything tremendous. And to their credit, in the second half, they took their linebackers who were right here 1 yard and backed them up. And that made a big difference in the second half because they were always getting caught down in this area, whatever play it was, and not able to what we call scrape over top. And because they blocked them, they walked them back a yard, it made things a little bit better for them at the second half. So that was a small detail, but a big thing. And again, you're looking at a play that's going to be a big play, possibly a touchdown. Now, from the other side of the ball, one thing that we've been called for multiple times this year that the NFHS, the National Federation of High Schools, their policy this year is what we call no man's land, and that is dedicated to the wingback. And there has to be true separation between the wingback and the next man inside of him. And they call this no man's land. Right now, he should be penalized. This should be, now the formation is not illegal unless they throw it and he goes out. In this situation, because this guy's on the line of scrimmage, according to the rule and policy we have this year, he is covered and means that he cannot go out for a pass. And this is a big play in the game, and they hit us right here up the seam for a touchdown. Now there's some other things logistically that we do wrong. It's 3rd and 9, and we probably shouldn't be coming up hard on run anybody, and we do. Knowing the down and distance is incredibly important, knowing the situation, but we have a couple of defensive guys coming forward on run, and that catches us flat-footed. So several things in this play just make a big difference. Knowing down and distance, the rule policy, I even had it checked with our local officials association. He said, Coach, 3 or 4 years ago, that doesn't get called, but that should have been called Friday night. So again, just small pieces on a Friday night that make things tough. Great effort by our young men, great effort by our coaches.
As always, thank you to North Hall Tire and Wheel for their support of North Hall Athletics. And Coach, we did get a question from a fan. In fact, it was from statistician extraordinaire David West. How and when did the black jersey tradition start?
Like I said, I think it was 2008. Blaine Gilmer's group of dads got together, and I think a lot of it was tied to the UGA when they came out in their black jerseys, and,
right.
and they thought it would be kind of neat. So it started to be a senior night thing, and it's kind of carried on since 2008. I'm pretty sure that's when it happened.
Yeah, I think so, because I seem to remember Aaron Mann being a senior that year, and so, like I said, his dad Kerry, and then of course Blaine's dad Tim, and that group.
That's right.
I'm sure that was one, and then of course it's been mentioned. We got a little bit of magic to them too. We don't want to jinx it. We don't.
No, but the run unfortunately will eventually end somewhere somehow.
Yes.
But we can hope that it'll stay as long as possible, being
Yes.
undefeated in black jerseys.
Yes, and of course, Coach Christmas did definitely push that streak on the line several years ago by breaking them out for Peach County, and worked out pretty well.
That's right.
So, all right. Let's continue our discussion a little bit on the history and culture of the program. We covered the state of the program when you arrived with Coach Christmas and the struggles and eventual triumphs that first year. We've talked about the amazing community support this program receives. But even there, where there's so many things to work on, so many changes that could make an immediate impact back then, at the very beginning, there was one big step that was taken really just practically from day one that was there just to build a sustained, long-term success in the program, and that's the establishment of the Junior Trojan program.
Absolutely, and obviously, I didn't know what it was like before. I think things were done by each school.
Yes,
if I remember correctly.
They were done by each elementary school. Yes,
and I think that has been a big thing for us, especially as you try to get young kids involved in football itself,
right.
And then try to find ways to keep them excited and in kind of together,
right.
by age group, and then build as they get through the high school level.
Yeah, exactly. I know that was what I was thinking about, taking a longer view of it. I know at the beginning a lot was made out of, well, let's get the kids running the North Hall system and at a young age, and so they're familiar with the terms of the scheme. And of course there's obviously been value to that. But to me, the bigger impact has been building that shared identity amongst the youth players. Like I said, you mentioned that, back in the Carter administration when I played, everyone played for their elementary school, and so bringing together Junior Trojans kind of broke down those old rivalries that would tend to follow them all the way into junior high and high school. But then beyond that, it seems to have given the younger guys an opportunity to identify and connect with the high school players they see on Friday nights. They're wearing the same colors, mostly. Same home field, same name, and as a bonus, some of those high school players they idolize sometimes end up helping coach their teams. So while the X's and O's may change, that vertical integration that's been built into the program has been really powerful.
I think it is, and like you said, there's so many different interchanging parts. When you look at kids growing up, I think looking towards being a Trojan, they idolize those high school kids. One of my coaches the other day was talking about how when he was a junior Trojan, how excited it was that he was down there close on a Friday night with TJ Pitts, and remember sitting there, he's got a picture of him with holding this little piece of paper, wanting TJ to sign his autograph, and now, fast forward, he's a coach on the staff, and then these guys, these young men that are playing for us, sometimes in high school, they're coaching, those junior Trojan teams are helping assisting, and then those are their idols. So now one of their idols is coaching them during that time. So there's just so many different things, and it just creates a little bit of an excitement from a young age, working your way up. And then those young guys that play for us right now, giving back to the community.
Right. And not just idols that they are playing on Friday night, idols that they know that just a few years before were in the same position they were.
That's right.
And it really shows them, hey, I can get there. But it's not just been vertically integrating the kids in the program as has it. It's tying back what we talked about last week. It's really been a big boost in getting parents of the young kids involved in the overall program, kind of initial step into getting involved in the program, and plus it's given the community another avenue for overall involvement as well, because we've had guys that just kept coaching after their kids were done.
That's right, absolutely, and that's just another neat little piece about the Junior Trojan program. It's just how all of it kind of starts to fit together and how we kind of want to work together.
Right, and it's we talked about some of these self-winding programs that we have, and it's definitely turned into. I mean, I imagine you don't spend a whole lot of time with the Junior Trojan.
No, one of the things when I first took over, I did spend a good bit of time with them.
Right, yes.
And so, but what I've learned is through leadership with working through seminars and then working with people that are very good leaders is if there's something you don't have to do and somebody else can do it, give them an opportunity to learn how to lead. So I call Coach Nichols, he's my associate head coach, and with his involvement already in the Junior Trojans, because he helps coach and his kids are involved there, he's kind of taking over a little bit of that role of just trying to help oversee and make sure things are running well. And he does a tremendous job with that.
Right. And of course, they got just, especially it seems like this year, they've had tremendous coach, tremendous leadership in the whole program, and that's translated into a very successful season for them in the North Georgia Youth Football Association. 5 of the 6 Junior Trojan teams made it all the way to the conference semifinals last week. The 9 and under and 10 and under teams, both lost very tight games, so they very easily could have won. But that leaves, we've got the 7 under team, the 11 under team, and the 7th grade team all advancing to play in the Super Bowl this Saturday at East Jackson High School. And in fact, Shane Clark's 7th grade team is going for the 4-peat. It'll be their 4th consecutive championship. So I'm going to put you on the spot here, Coach. How about you look straight at the camera here and give the Junior Trojans a little pep talk heading into the Super Bowl?
That's awesome. Well, first of all, congratulations to getting to this point. It takes a lot of effort, both from the coaches and players, and with the year that we've had with COVID and all the other things, just to be able to go through those trails, and I mean trails, not trials, but trails, to get to this point, because there are just so many different things that you guys have had to go through. And that takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of dedication, both from parents and community members, as well as coaches, players. So I'm excited to be able to be a part of that. I'm going to try my best to be at all 3 games if possible. And I want to see the Trojans come out, win or lose. You guys are all winners, and we're excited to have you as part of our program.
Great words, Coach. All right, so let's get back to the varsity. Cherokee Bluff game combined with Gilmer's COVID forfeit to White County, largely cleared up the 7 AAA playoff picture. All right, Cherokee Bluff is region champion, and White County is going to be the number 4 seed. Really, no matter what the outcome of their game Friday night or any other game. I got to take a quick detour here, Coach. Just got to think if you're over at Rockmart where you've already clinched your region, you're ranked in the top 5 or 6 of the state. You've got to be wondering how the heck you ended up with White County at your first round game.
Yeah, well, it could be worse. You could be Oconee County and having to now face Cedar Grove in the first round when you probably would have been thinking you wouldn't see them until.
Right, I know.
But anyway,
like I said, it's not. The Rockmart's is not even the craziest first round matchup.
No, but yeah, absolutely, and that also shows a little bit of the depth that we do have in our region this year, where. White County is a tremendous football team. So it's not like number 4 in Region 7 AAA is a pushover.
Right. And so that aside, we'll go through we'll spend a little more time on the entire playoff picture next week. But all right, so here we are, final regular season game. It's North Hall, Dawson County, with the winner clinching the number 2 seed in 7 AAA and the first round home game that comes with it. The loser falls to the number 3 seed. Like you said, that sounds vaguely familiar, doesn't it, Coach?
Yeah, our place last year, same exact scenario.
And their place 2 years ago.
That's right.
Same exact scenario. So now we mentioned those last 2 years' games. They've both been nail biters that came down to the very end and sometimes farther. Since it was overtime 2 years ago, but they're both very different games from each other.
Yes.
Last year devolved into a shootout with us hanging on for a 40-37 win. 2018 was a stifling defensive struggle with Dawson tying the game with a short field goal in the final minute and then winning it 17-10 in overtime. Like I said, same stakes, same teams, basically. Completely different flow to those games.
Yeah, and the funny thing is in 2018, everybody was expecting an offensive shootout.
Right.
Because of the high-powered offenses that both teams had. And we scored 10 points apiece. And I think most of those were scored in the fourth quarter. And then you throw in, I don't think either team had 200 yards of offense in that game. And then last year, they were expecting more of a defensive game. And it was a battle royale shootout, and it was kind of like, whoever has the ball last is going to win this game. And that's kind of the way it came down.
Yeah.
Now, to the exact last second when I had to have the quarterback run around, scramble around, and run the clock out.
Right. Yeah, just to keep them from getting another play because the way that game had gone, you didn't want to give them one more play from anywhere. All right, so building up to this. Looking at it on paper, I think we'd agree defensively one of North Hall's biggest, issues this year has been giving up big plays in the passing game.
That's true.
And that's kind of the Dawson County specialty. But flip it over, Dawson just hasn't been able to consistently stop the run either. And Jaquan Smith at Cherokee Bluff rushed for over 300 yards against them 2 weeks ago. He only had 90 against us, and then after blocking a potential game-winning field goal, Cherokee Bluff got the ball and basically just ground out the last 6 or 7 minutes of the game against them. And so when you got things lining up, one team's offensive strength aligns with other team's defensive weaknesses on both sides. It looks at first glance. Anyway, like we're heading for another 2019 type game.
Yeah, I hope not. I don't know if my heart can take it after White County. The way that game went, it was a back and forth, but hey, I'll take it as long as we give ourselves an opportunity.
Well, like I said, we expected a shootout in 2018, and obviously turnovers and special teams could really shift the balance of this game, and other than the punt block this week, that's a couple of areas that turnovers haven't really been a big problem for us this year, and special teams has really improved over the course of the season.
Yeah, and I think it's been 4 or 5 games, to be honest with you, that we've had without the offense turning the ball over. And I don't know that I've ever experienced a streak like that. Typically, you get 1 or 2 games, and you feel really good. But it's been a while since we've turned the ball over, and that goes back to coaches and players, taking care of the little things that we work on in practice, and you're seeing the fruits of that, Ladner.
Okay. Well, next week, Coach, we're going to like to circle back and sort of redo the quote-unquote lost episode from earlier.
The quiet episode,
Yeah,
with no line.
Yeah, so for those of you at home that have been wondering why there's no episode 2 on YouTube, it's because it had no sound and we didn't hear you one to lip read. So we ought to be well rehearsed for that one, right, Coach?
That's right.
All right, and so that's going to wrap up this episode of the Trojan Football Coach's Couch. Again, the Trojans host Dawson County in the regular season finale here tonight at Lynn Cottrell Stadium at the Brickyard. Those unable to obtain tickets, the game will be streamed live on YouTube. We'll be right back here at the couch next week to recap the game. We'll also take a quick look at the entire AAA playoff bracket and preview our first round playoff game. As always, if you have questions you'd like me to pose to Coach Bishop, post them in the comments and maybe we'll include one of them in the show. So thanks for tuning in, and go Trojans.
Go Trojans.
And go Junior Trojans.
That's it, Junior Trojans.